is. It's about defining it. Right? So we're gonna learn about dimensions, people. We got zero dimension right here. If you look down, you can see it right here. This is zero. It's just a point. It's like consciousness sees itself, and then it expands into the first dimension, and then it goes to the second dimension, which is a square. And the third dimension, now you got a cube, and now you got the fourth dimension, which is, I don't even remember what the hell that's called. It's like a hypercube, I believe is what it's called actually. And then you can't even draw dimensions after that because we can't perceive them because we're not in those dimensions. So you have to be a higher dimension to understand the lower dimensions, and that's how it works. And we're going to learn that in this episode here. So this is a beautiful video right here. I forgot what this, Carl Sagan is actually a very smart man, and he explains the dimensions in a way so we can understand it. Here's another website where they talk about dimensions. Actually, a really great website. It's called energyreality.com. You can learn a lot of stuff on this website about our bodies, different types of bodies, different layers of our energy or our reality. And it also talks about dimensions. Here you can see that. So we'll go, you can check that out on your own. But in another episode, we're going to talk about our bodies. And there's different types of bodies, so you can check that out in the next episode. But it has to do with our dimensions as well. But so let's watch this video explaining these dimensions, so that way you can all understand it together, and we can all enjoy. We can all know what the hell we're talking about here. So watch this video. It's not that long. It's like 10 minutes long, not even. So it'll help you understand. Okay, so here you go. Discussing the large-scale structure of the cosmos, astronomers sometimes say that space. Actually, I'm just gonna leave it like that. Make sure you can see it. That the universe is finite but unbounded. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean, absolutely flat, and that we live, appropriately enough, in flatland, a land designed and named by Edwin Abbott, a Shakespearean scholar who lived in Victorian England. Everybody in flatland is, of course, exceptionally flat. We have squares, circles, triangles, and we all scurry about, and we can go into our houses and do our flat business. Now, we have width and length, but no height at all. Now, these little cutouts have some little height, but let's ignore that. Let's imagine that these are absolutely flat. That being the case, we know, us flatlanders, about left-right, and we know about forward-back, but we have never heard of up-down. Let us imagine that into flatland, hovering above it, comes a strange three-dimensional creature which, oddly enough, looks like an apple. And the three-dimensional creature sees an attractive, congenial-looking square, watches it enter its house, and decides in a gesture of interdimensional amity to say hello. Hello, says the three-dimensional creature. How are you? I am a visitor from the third dimension. Well, the poor square looks around his closed house, sees no one there, and what's more, has witnessed a greeting coming from his insides, a voice from within. He surely is getting a little worried about his sanity. The three-dimensional creature is unhappy about being considered a psychological aberration, and so he descends to actually enter flatland. Now, a three-dimensional creature exists in flatland only partially. Only a plane, a cross-section through him can be seen. So, when the three-dimensional creature first reaches flatland, it's only the points of contact which can be seen, and we'll represent that by stamping the apple in this ink pad and placing that image in flatland. And as the apple were to descend through, slither by flatland, we would progressively see higher and higher slices, which we can represent by cutting the apple. So the square
time goes on, sees a set of objects mysteriously appear from nowhere and inside a closed room and change their shape dramatically. His only conclusion could be that he's gone bonkers. Well, the apple might be a little annoyed at this conclusion, and so, not such a friendly gesture from dimension to dimension, makes a contact with the square from below and sends our flat creature fluttering and spinning above flatland. At first, the square has no idea what's happening, is terribly confused, is utterly outside his experience. After a while, he comes to realize that he is seeing inside closed rooms in flatland. He is looking inside his fellow flat creatures. He is seeing flatland from a perspective no one has ever seen it before to his knowledge. Getting into another dimension provides as an incidental benefit a kind of X-ray vision. Now our flat creature slowly descends to the surface, and his friends rush up to see him. From their point of view, he has mysteriously appeared from nowhere. He hasn't walked from somewhere else. He's come from some other place. They say, for heaven's sake, what's happened to you? And the poor square has to say, well, I was in some other mystic dimension called up. And they will pat him on his side and comfort him, or else they'll ask, well, show us, where is that third dimension? Point to it. And the poor square will be unable to comply. What may be more interesting is the other direction in dimensionality. What about the fourth dimension? Now, to approach that, let's consider a cube. We can imagine a cube in the following way. You take a line segment and move it at right angles to itself in equal length. That makes a square. Move that square in equal length at right angles to itself, and you have a cube. Now, this cube, we understand, casts a shadow. And that shadow we recognize. It's, ordinarily drawn in third grade classrooms as two squares with their vertices connected. Now, if we look at the shadow of a three-dimensional object in two dimensions, we see that, in this case, not all the lines appear equal. Not all the angles are right angles. The three-dimensional object has not been perfectly represented in its projection in two dimensions, but that's part of the cost of losing a dimension in the projection.
It's kind of like
now
dropping the image file.
Take this three-dimensional cube and project it, carry it to a fourth physical dimension. Not that way, not that way, not that way, but at right angles to those three directions. I can't show you what direction that is, but imagine that there is a fourth physical dimension. In that case, we would generate a four-dimensional hypercube, which is also called a tesseract. I cannot show you a tesseract because I and you are trapped in three dimensions. But what I can show you is the shadow in three dimensions of a four-dimensional hypercube or tesseract. This is it. And you can see it's two nested cubes, all the vertices connected by lines. And now the real tesseract in four dimensions would have all the lines of equal length and all the angles right angles. That's not what we see here, but that's the penalty of projection. So, you see, while we cannot imagine the world of four dimensions, we can certainly think about it perfectly well. Now, imagine a universe just like Flatland, truly two-dimensional, and entirely flat in every direction, but with one exception. Unbeknownst to the inhabitants, their two-dimensional universe is curved into a third physical dimension, maybe into a sphere, but at any rate, into something entirely outside their experience. Locally, their universe still looks flat enough, but if one of them, much smaller and flatter than me, takes a very long walk along what seems to be a straight line, he would uncover a great mystery. Suppose he marked his starting point here and set off to explore his universe. He never turns around and he never reaches an edge. He doesn't know that his apparently flat universe is actually curved into an enormous sphere. He doesn't sense that he's walking around a globe. Why should his space be curved? Because there's so much matter in this universe that it gravitationally warps space, closing it back on itself into a sphere. But our flatlander doesn't know this. After a long while, you'll find he somehow returns to his starting point. There must be a third dimension. Our flatlander couldn't imagine a third dimension, but he could sure deduce it. Now, increase all the dimensions in this story by one, and you have something like the situation which many cosmologists think may actually apply to us. We are three-dimensional creatures trapped in three dimensions. We imagine our universe to be flat in three dimensions, but maybe it's curved into a fourth. We can talk about a fourth physical dimension, but we can't experience it. No one can point to the fourth dimension. I mean, there's left, right, and there's forward, back, there's up, down, and there's some other directions simultaneously at right angles to those familiar three dimensions.
Notice how you could see his spinal cord there kind of like represents that he has a awareness here. I don't know if you guys know about the Kundalini, but I don't know, that's what I just thought about. But that's the those are dimensions right there. Now, I wouldn't have been able to explain it nearly as well as he just explained it, so that's why I just played that video. But basically, that's how the dimensions work. I can't really explain it any more than that. But I mean, I could have easily just kind of told you to go to that video instead of like kind of stealing the video. I take no credit for that video at all. That's Carl Sagan. He's a smart man. I believe that he actually passed away. I can give some tribute to him. Carl Sagan, he died on December 20th, 1996, 4 years after I was born. He's a very smart guy. And that's really the dimensions. So what I can talk about, what I believe, okay, since this is philosophy. I happen to believe that there are a lot of dimensions, and that we are multidimensional beings. I happen to believe that we are stuck in this reality on purpose, that we are stuck in this third dimension purposefully, to keep us from ascending and experiencing and evolving in reality and seeing and perceiving the universe as it truly is. I believe that it's kept this way to keep us as slaves, which is messed up to talk about, but I mean, there's an ugly truth to everything. But I believe that there is a possibility and a way with the Merkaba, so this is where I'm going to talk about the Merkaba, to ascend into higher dimensions with the divine light. It's a divine light vehicle used by ascended masters to connect with and reach higher realms. Now, a realm is another way of saying dimension in my mind. So what is an interdimensional being? An interdimensional being, or intelligence, also intradimensional and other dimensional, is a type of theoretical or fictional entity existing in a dimension beyond your own. Such beings are common in science fiction. Science fiction, because science can only explain. Let's see what science is. What is science? Science is intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. So if you can't observe it and you can't experiment with it, then it's not science, okay? It's not scientifically proven. It can't be scientifically proven. And as we all know, there are things that we can't observe and we can't experience on this dimension, which means we can't scientifically prove that that shit even exists. We can't even scientifically prove that there is a fourth dimension, but I think we can, or deduce it, or whatever, how he just said. Okay? We know there are other dimensions. There is a fourth dimension. Okay? Now, science can't see this fourth dimension unless there's probably a way that they can see it scientifically where we don't know about. They're not going to tell us. Considering the fourth dimension is time, yes, it exists. We just can't move freely beyond the third dimension. It depends on who you talk to, but there are 10 to 11 dimensions, and they mostly involve knowing every possible outcome to every possible universe. It says every possible universe. Now, I believe, personally, that every possibility exists all at once at every time, because there really is no time, even though they say that the fourth dimension is time. I believe that if you go beyond a higher dimension, like it says right here, the 7 primal levels of energy in our reality, there is a place where time and space no longer exist. That there is no time and space. That it's outside of time and space, and it will say that somewhere in here. Believe boundless pure consciousness outside of normal space and time, tremendous power. See where it says that right there? So there are dimensions that exceed, that excel, that go above time and space. Now he just said space, what we perceive as space is left, right, forward, back, up, down, diagonal, and other different ways of moving. Okay, that is our space. So if we type in space, define space. What is space? Space is a continuous area or expanse that is free, available, or unoccupied. The dimensions of height, depth, and width within all things exist and move. Within which all things exist and move. Okay, but that's the third dimension. That's three-dimensional. Okay, so the fourth dimension. There is a fourth dimension. Okay, I'm going to just type that in quotations. So now you see there's 9,350 results. Now let's say there is not a fourth dimension. Now there is one result. So I think it's safe to assume there isn't a fourth dimension. See, I think it's safe to assume that there is a fourth dimension because only 7 results say that there isn't a fourth dimension. Only 1 result says there is not a fourth dimension, and a lot of results say there is a fourth dimension. So I would say it's safe to assume that there is a fourth dimension because that's what the majority of people would agree with. Okay, now let's check out there is a fifth dimension, because I believe there's a fifth dimension. And they said there is a fifth dimension. Well, there is a fifth dimension. See, now there's 8,390 results, okay? Let's say that there's a 12th dimension. Now there's only 4 results, okay? So they believe there's only 10 to 11 dimensions, 4 results. Now there's the 10th dimension. Boom, 4 results. There is an 8th dimension. 3 results. Now let's do this. The 8th dimension. Now there's 123,000 results. Well, let's do the 12th dimension. Now there's still 1,430 results. See, there we go. A dimension is a state of consciousness. Indigos were born on the indigo or blue ray of incarnation and evolution, but into 3D bodies with their consciousness firmly in the 4th or 5th dimension. Crystals are born with their consciousness in the 6th dimension. So this is basically talking about people that are in consciousness, okay? So I should have said this before, but it's the dimensions of consciousness. So what we are conscious of. So if in the 3rd dimension we are only conscious of forward, backward, left, right, up, down, and all of that, in and out, well, I'm not even sure that, is in and out part of the 4th dimension or the 3rd dimension is in and out. What dimension is in and out part of? I don't know. I feel like it would take a really long time to figure that out, because I don't know how to type that in. But basically, a dimension is a state of consciousness, okay? So we are conscious beings. So we're multi-dimensional beings because we are multi-consciousness beings, if that makes any sense. So we can basically understand we're supposed to ascend, people. We're supposed to raise our consciousness or raise our vibration. There are people, they call them the indigo children, that are born into higher dimensions than us. Okay, see, they're born into the 4th and 5th dimensions. So if you want to believe that, we can type in indigo children, which they removed from the media. Indigo children. Indigo children, according to pseudo-scientific New Age concept, are children who are believed to possess special, unusual, and sometimes supernatural traits or abilities. They are sometimes also referred to as crystal children or star children. These are the people that are born. Now remember back in that video where when the apple came down, and the square thought it was crazy, thought that, and then the other squares, after the square was thrown up in the air, the square friends were like, oh no, you're crazy. They pat him on the head, or they wanted to see the other dimension, but he couldn't show them, so it couldn't be scientifically proven. They couldn't show him because he was crazy. So they would have thought that he had some special unusual or sometimes supernatural traits or abilities to be able to go into a higher dimension. That's how they would have looked at it. But really, they're just in a higher dimension. They see life differently. You know how it is. Okay? Although no scientific studies give credibility to the existence of indigo children of their traits, the phenomenon appeals to some parents whose children have been diagnosed with learning disabilities and to parents seeking to believe that their children are special. Okay? Now there's, description of indigo children include that they are empathic, curious, and strong-willed, are often perceived by friends and family as being strange, possess a clear sense of self-definition and purpose, show a strong innate subconscious spirituality from early childhood, have a strong feeling of entitlement or deserving to be here. High intelligence, quotient, inherent intuitive ability, resistance to rigid control-based paradigms of authority. So based on these characteristics, I would be an indigo child, but I don't believe that I am. I just believe that I see things in a different way than other people. And I'll see things the way that other people that see things just like me see things. So I'm not strange to those people, and you're not strange to people that see things the way that you see things, okay? So I don't know, relation to autism. Crystal children, a concept related to indigo children, has been linked by autism researcher Mitzi Waltz to the autistic spectrum. Proponents recategorize autistic symptoms as telepathic powers and attempt to reconceptualize the autistic traits associated with them as part of a positive identity. Autism researcher Mitzi Waltz states that there may be inherent dangers to these beliefs, leading parents to deny the existence of impairments, avoid proven treatments, and spend considerable money on unhelpful interventions. Walt states that parents may also transmit belief systems to the child that are self-aggrandizing, confusing, and potentially frightening. So basically, it's kind of the opposite for me because I've been told that I'm not freaking, all this and all that, that I'm not a telepath and that I don't have special abilities and all that. And I still, I'm not saying that I am, but, I believe that telepathy exists. And I know that it exists 100%. And telepathy can be proven because there is such thing as artificial telepathy. Supposed communication of thoughts or ideas by means other than known senses. Alright? Can science prove that telepathy exists? Science has proven telepathy exists. Now let's see. Telepathy is real. In the vast array of things I wonder about, telepathy has not even been something I've wondered. Alright, you know what? I think if you go back in the previous video that I made, the last episode, about universal laws, I think it pretty much self-explanatory that everything's vibration, thoughts are vibrations, everything's connected, there's a ripple effect, and that there's a law of attraction, there's a law of action, there's all those laws. So to say that telepathy is not real and doesn't exist is kind of ignorant and goes against the universal laws. But we won't go there. So I'm 23 minutes and 29 seconds in, and I'd like to talk more about dimensions and our reality. Okay? So let's say we are stuck in the fourth dimension, and we'd like to ascend to a higher dimension. Let's check up the Merkaba. These are the Merkabas, people. People have activated their Merkabas all around the world, and people that have activated their Merkabas, the government can see them, can see the Merkabas like they are vehicles. And I'll type that in. Can see Merkabas on their can see Merkabas view auras. Whereas the military can see people who activate their Merkabas and watch. Just want you to know that this is real, people, so that way you don't think you're wasting your time. Military Okay, in other words, alright, at a certain specific moment, not necessarily this lifetime, a person's Merkaba field can become alive. When this happens, an electromagnetic change occurs which results in a disk of energy that comes out from a tiny place near the base of the spine and quickly expands to about 27 to 30 feet in radius around the body. This disk can easily be perceived by scientific means, which means science has proven that Merkabas exist. And if the United States Air Force is correct, it can be put up on their computer screens via satellite. In other words, the military can see people who activate their Merkabas and watch as they move around the surface of the earth. Basically, it is a vehicle of light, okay? You can activate it with your body. I know it sounds like science fiction, people, but it's not, okay? This goes back, I believe, before even the Egyptian times. Egyptian Merkaba. Now, this is a big secret they've been keeping from people and that you people need to know about. So, this is Egyptian shit right here. Merkaba. Merkaba script, tablet. It's probably on a tablet or something. Merkaba. So, Emerald tablets, maybe. I don't know what's on the Emerald tablet. I like to read what the Emerald tablet has to say, though. We can make a video about that one of these days. But this is the Merkaba, people. I'm not going to be able to explain it completely because I haven't activated my Merkaba. But there are people that do have courses and training to help you activate your Merkaba and help you ascend to higher dimensions. Here we go. Yes, I believe, as did most all the ancient civilizations, that there are specific moments in the history of mankind where great jumps in human understanding take place, as in the ancient Sumerian, Egyptian, and Indus Valley in civilizations. So yes, all those ancient civilizations knew about the Merkaba, and I know they wrote about it and passed it on to us. But as I said before, you're not going to learn about this in school, you're not going to learn about this on the news, and most people are not going to be aware of this. But it is real, okay? In ancient Egypt, this primal pattern was called the Merkaba. It was actually 3 words, not one. Mer meant kind of a light that rotated within itself. Ka means spirit, and in this case referring to the human spirit, and Ba meant the human body, though it also could mean the concept of reality that spirit holds. And so the entire world in ancient Egypt referred to a rotating light that would take the spirit and the body from one world into another. And notice how it says the spirit and the body. So it's kind of like teleportation, in a way. Not really the same, but you are going from one world to another. So this does sound like science fiction, doesn't it? But this is back from ancient Egypt, people. This is like, I once spent a couple of hours with Credo Mutwa, the spiritual leader of the Zulu tribe in Africa. He explained to me that Merkaba, one word, was a Zulu word meaning a space-time dimensional vehicle. So it's time travel, dimensional travel, and space travel. He told me that according to Zulu legend, his entire tribe had come from another dimension here to Earth using the Merkaba. Which actually, you know what? I would not believe if it was years ago, but I actually 100% believe that. I really do believe it. Okay? In the modern world, there are teachers worldwide, and I am one of them, who are helping people remember the Merkaba. Thus begin a process in consciousness dimensions that will eventually translate us from the third dimensional world into the next higher one through what is called ascension. And that's what we were just talking about. Ascension involves a process where the human body is transformed into light and translated by an incredible birth into a new world, like a rebirth. It is achieved through a meditation that requires the mind, heart, body, and spirit to completely integrate in one pattern of light and transcend the human limitations of this reality. This concept of the Merkaba as an ascension vehicle is not new. It is very, very old. And as like I believe that most of the things that we learn about today are from the ancients that already knew about this stuff. Whether the aliens taught them, whether we just already knew it, maybe God taught them, who knows? But these people knew more back then than we know now. And I believe that's due to education and our de-evolution and our retardation of our civilization, which is obviously intentional. So we have our world leaders and the people that are controlling the world are trying to hold us back from ascending and becoming masters of our reality. Just put it this way. If telepathy existed, people, if you could read people's thoughts, then what would national security be? If you could just read anyone's thoughts and read their social security number, their passwords to their personal computers and their accounts, and all their bank account information, their PIN, and all their secrets that they ever have, if you could just walk up to a CIA agent or someone that's a government agent or a spy or something like that, what would spies be able to do if there was telepathy, if they could just read your thoughts, if they didn't even have to torture or interrogate you to get with the information out of you? If they're trying to cover this stuff up, people, these are our natural inborn talents that we're supposed to have. Now, I even believe that we're supposed to be able to fly, and that actually says that we should be able to fly. The Merkaba would actually be flight. There are so many different things that we are not told about. We don't even learn about the mind, people. We don't learn about our spirit, our souls in school. We're taught about our body. We're taught about our anatomy, and we're taught so much that we can't even possibly even absorb all the information, and most of it we forget over the years, all right? Because it's useless shit. We don't use it other than math, other than like just regurgitating the information and talking about it in conversations. What are we really learning in school, people? And what is this education? Okay, and there's a quote that says, "The more we know, the more you know, the less you know." No education. All right, the less you know, the more you believe. You know, basically, because of education, they're brainwashing us. All right, they're teaching us a whole bunch of shit that limits our beliefs. Okay, misinformation, I always say this, misinformation is more powerful than any lie, because lies will be exposed. The truth will always expose lies, but misinformation will lead you down a path of more misinformation and more lies. Will keeping you from the truth for a much longer period of time than any lie would. Okay, so all these lies are not as strong as the misinformation, the stuff you hear on the news, the stuff that makes you scared, the stuff that makes you believe complete bullshit, the stuff that limits your version or your belief of reality. All right, and it uses the universal laws against you, or actually you're using them against yourself, because if you believe that you're lesser than what you are, if you're looking outside yourself and asking God for help, and you're not accepting that God is within you, that God is outside of you, and God is a part of you, and that you can help yourself, if you're not accepting that you can help yourself by asking someone else for help, you're accepting to yourself that you need that help, that you're not good enough to help yourself. If you're looking outside yourself for relationship, for love, for this person, for that person, to make you feel loved, then you can't love yourself, then you're accepting that you're not able to love yourself. Okay, money is not going to help you, people. Knowledge even is not. You can know everything in the world, but if you don't know how to apply that knowledge, then you're never going to get anywhere with it. Okay, you can literally know everything in the world. Okay, here, I looked that up. You can know everything in the world, but okay, there was a quote about that, and I'm probably not going to find it. You know everything in the world, but then you won't know that what you don't know, so you don't know everything. It's a paradox. That's funny. I never heard that one. Alright, well, let's just forget about it, alright? So we're talking about dimensions. Clearly I have ADHD. That's what they want to label me as, ADHD, because my mind is everywhere. I think about one thing and it connects to another thing. It's like the neurons in my brain are all connected. It's like my neurons in my brain are all one thought. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's one thought. Okay, see this right here, this right here, this little dot right here. This is one thought. This is me talking about dimensions. And because I'm thinking about dimensions, it's connected to all these other thoughts, all these other topics. And then I go from one to the other, and I just jump around from this light to this light to this light to this light to this neuron to this neuron. It's like I'm jumping around. It's like every little thought in my head is like a star in the sky, and all the sky's stars are connected because they are connected just like these neurons in our brains. Okay, so they say that information is stored in these neurons in our brains, but I mean, I believe that our soul stores information. I believe that our spirit and our mind stores the information. I believe that our memories are not stored in our brains, and I believe that when we die, we are not losing our memories unless they are unless we're like sucked to the dark side of the moon or something, unless they're like washing us, brainwashing us, you know, but mind washing. So what's mind washing? You know, let's look up what mind wash is. We know what brainwashing is, but the brain is just the organ for the mind, right? So what's mind washing? Mind wash is not brainwashing. Mind wash. Definition of mind wash. Uh, let's put it like this: Bitcoins, right? If you have Bitcoins, say you got a bunch of illegal Bitcoins sent to you, right? And you want to cover it up. You want to cover up the tracks of where those Bitcoins came from. Some of you that don't know what Bitcoins are a virtual currency. It's called a cryptocurrency, and it's like money on the internet, okay? Virtual coins, virtual monies, okay? It's actually real money, unlike our currency now. So Bitcoin is actually more valuable than your cash. But anyways, so let's say you want to get your Bitcoins out, or let's talk about money. Say you want your money out, all right? You got dirty money. You did some dirty shit to get some dirty money. Say you're a mafia man, or like this is the mob, right? And you got a bakery and you're selling drugs or something bad, guns or something underneath the bakery, right? You got all your bakery money. Say you got $1,000 a day from your bakery, but you got $20,000 or $10,000 a day from the shit downstairs, all right? So you want to figure out how to wash that money. You want to make it so it's clean money, right? So you're going to take that money and you're going to move it through various types of systems, and you're going to basically make it erase itself, so that way it comes out as a new type of money. And I believe that's what happens to us when we die. I believe that we travel different dimensions or through time and space or whatever. Our soul or our spirit or our mind or whatever, it leaves our body, it goes somewhere else, it gets washed. So we forget who we are, we forget our life, we forget our memories, we forget our experiences, which we shouldn't. This is what keeps us from evolving, people. And then we get reincarnated or forcibly sent back to live in a new body, or we have to travel by ourselves to enter into the womb of people having sex and go into that sperm cell where it's being fertilized and all that shit, and then it turns into a baby. Okay? Maybe that's how it is. Maybe we're not being forced. Maybe we have to go ourselves. Either way, there is a spirit inside of our body, and we are more than our physical bodies, and I can prove that right now. It's very easy. It's very easy to prove that. Electromagnetic waves. Right here. If your electromagnetic waves of your heart expand this far, come on, people. This is your heart and your brain, right? These are your electromagnetic waves. They extend very far outside of your physical body, which means that is you. Those are your electromagnetic waves. Everything is just energy. Everything vibrates at a certain frequency, including you and everything and everyone around us. We influence our frequency by how we think and how we feel, as this is how we experience our reality. Okay? So your electromagnetic waves from your heart are you. That is you. That's coming from you. That's you. So you're already bigger than your body. You already know it. That's science. Science doesn't have to fucking prove it. I just proved it for you. It's right there. It's right in front of your fucking face. Okay, so you can't deny it. This is you. Science has proved that you have electromagnetic waves. So that's you. Those are your electromagnetic waves. Everything is energy, including you, vibrating in the void of non-existence. So there you are. So you're bigger than your physical body. Those electromagnetic waves are not coming from your physical body. They are coming from your physical body, but they're not your physical body because they're not physical. See what I'm saying? So, what is that? What are your electromagnetic waves? We'll talk about that in another video if we get the chance to it. But remember what the Merkaba is, people. Look up the Merkaba, look up the dimensions, learn more about it, and you'll understand life way better. And make sure you apply it to the universal laws and all the other stuff that we've talked about. Devin Devine out. Have a great night. Good.